Hi folks, welcome back. So this is another in this series where I'm using R, the R programming language, RStudio, to conduct data science tasks and data analysis. So I'm still going over some of the basics and basic functionality in R. In the previous video I talked about importing data sets from existing CSV files or Excel files. So where, if you've got your own data frame, your own data set, you usually want to import that so you can analyze it using the software packages in R. But sometimes you may want to manually create and save your own data frame in R. It's unlikely you're going to do this for large amounts of data, but sometimes you might need to create variables or data frames that are small to play around with. And what I'm going to demonstrate in this video is how you can create a number of variables and then combine them together into a data frame, and then you can then export that using different file types from R. So you can export it as a CSV file and you then have it saved as a CSV file or as an Excel file. So that's what we're going to look at today in this particular video. So what I'm going to do first of all is just demonstrate how you can create new objects that are kind of arrays or lists of items essentially in R using this kind of C and then parentheses notation. And the C stands for concatenate, or you could think of it as combine if you like, if that's more convenient, easier to remember. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a series of variables, just made up information, made up data, and then I'm going to combine it all into a data set. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create this new variable, this new object called pers_name. So that's person's name. I thought about using name and I thought about using person, but they're kind of already there are prompts in R that come up, so they could be used as methods or functions in other ways. So it's kind of best to, when you create variables or objects, not give them the same names as existing functions, whatever programming language it is that you're using. So my first variable here is pers_name, person's name, and I'm using the usual assignment operator, this less than minus, this alt minus command, and then I'm using C and opening some parentheses to say combine these items here into a new object essentially. And you can see what they are is the person's name as a string contained within double quotes, and they're just separated by commas essentially. So we've got Rob in double quotes, comma, John in double quotes, comma. Okay, so if I run that command, what you'll see is we've now got this new variable, this new object created here in our environment, person name, shown as a character data type, and it contains those items we put in the parentheses in our list. So I've created a couple of others here, some obvious what they are essentially, age, and I'm using the C to concatenate these 5 numbers here representing the ages of the person in the list above. And you can see running that command, that's created a new age variable. It's recognized it as numeric. And if I do the same for height and for this one here, work. So what I've got here is essentially height, some sort of measurement of how tall they are, I guess, their name, their age, how tall they are. And work is kind of like a factor or categorical variable. So 0, it might be one particular role or another role, and I've just kind of represented it as dummy codes here. When I've created this work, it's created as a numeric variable. I could have given these just kind of string labels for like maybe employed, unemployed, something like that. But I chose not to do that in this case. I just kind of like created this 0 and 1 kind of dummy code in. If we were actually going to do some analysis with this, because this is a categorical variable, or it's intended to be, we'd have to then change that to a factor. I'm not going to do that in this video. I've kind of demonstrated in all the ones, and we'll have to do that occasionally when tidying our data. But what I'm going to do now, what we've got here is basically four items, 4 objects that are completely separate. But what we really want is a data frame, like a nice tidy data frame, which has each of these variable headings as a column and each of the items as a participant or row or observation. Okay, so to do that, we can combine those different variables into a data frame object. And to do that, what I'm going to do is the same as we can create any object. I'm going to give it a name that I've chosen. I'm going to df for date, short for the data frame. I'm going to use the assignment operator, and the syntax that I want to use is data.frame. So that's the function that I'm calling. It's basically I'm using data.frame, and then in parentheses I'm passing the 4 objects I created above, so the names of those 4 variables. So it's going to create a data frame out of those 4 variables. Okay, so let's run that command, and you can see now we've got this data frame. If I hover, it might tell us, yeah, it's a data frame. We've got 5 observations from 4 variables. That makes sense. That seems to be correct. Because it's such a small data frame, we could also just print it onto the screen. So if I just run df here, we'll be able to see it in the command line below, the output for it. And you can see now each variable is a column, and each of our entries is a particular participant or person, whoever we've maybe recorded this data from. We could look at the structure of it as well using that str command, that str function structure. And if I do that, you see it gives us that nice data summary. It tells us the data type, character, numeric. We know one of these, we want it to be a category, so we'd have to change that to a factor at some point. And we can do all the normal sorts of things we do with data frames, such as interrogate individual variables. So I can select the age variable by using that, give the name of the data frame, the $sign, and then the variable of interest. So df$age will print out the values for the age variable below there in the command line. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, so that's kind of some basics on a very small toy data set that we've made up. If you had loads and loads of data, you wouldn't want to create your data frames like this. You want them already in some sort of spreadsheet or file, and you'd then just want to import that, as I've demonstrated in other videos. But having just created this particular data frame, we can actually export it from R. It doesn't just exist in R. We can actually export it from R and save it in various file types. So the two that I'm going to demonstrate are how to export it as a CSV file. As I've said previously, they're useful files, they're easy to work with, they work very well in programming languages such as R. I'll also demonstrate how to export it as an Excel spreadsheet, so an xlsx file, which requires installing and loading a particular package. But to export this as a CSV file, the command that we use, or the function, is we type the syntax is write.csv, and then in parentheses we give the name of the data frame, our data frame object, df in this case, then a comma, and then in double quotes we specify the name we want this file to be saved as, including the extension. So you can see where I've done write.csv, and I'm saying you take the data frame object we've got saved here in our environment, comma, and export it, write it to a CSV that is called employees.csv. So if I run that command there, you can see it's printed the command in the command line below. But if I just pop up this is the folder on my computer where I'm working. I have this project saved, and what you can see here is it's exported that data frame as a CSV called employees.csv. So we now have that data we created saved as a different file type on our computer. So a useful thing to do in some cases. Okay, so that's a CSV file. We can do a similar sort of thing exporting to an Excel spreadsheet though, but this requires, there are a couple of packages you can install to do this, and there are more ways to export files than the ones I'm demonstrating here. This is just some of the most basic functionality, but it's a good place to get started. But to export as an Excel spreadsheet, you're going, as a minimum, you're going to require a package called Open xlsx to be installed and loaded. So if I've commented out here, before I remove that comment, you can see you'd need to do something like install.packages, and then in double quotes in parentheses, you'd need to give the name of the package, Open xlsx. I'm not going to run that command. I'm going to comment it out again because I've already installed that package, but I am going to load it using the library function. So I'm using library and then the name of that package, Open xlsx. If I run that, that has, you can see below, this return, it's loaded that package and returned the command line prompt. And then now all I'm going to do is a very similar thing to what we did for the CSV file above. I'm using this write command, write dot, and then the xlsx instead of CSV, and then in parentheses I'm giving the name of the object, the data frame, and the name of the Excel spreadsheet I want it to be saved to. So it's going to create, this time we'll call it new_workers.xlsx. So if I control enter and run that command, it has run. And if we have a look in my folder on my computer for this project, you can see there newworkers.xlsx has been saved, and if I pop it open, that's what it looks like. So it's the data we created, all nice and tidy in a nice tidy format. Okay, so that's it. That's all I was going to cover in this particular video. I hope this was helpful. I'll still quite a lot of basic stuff to cover in the next few videos, and then we'll get on to some kind of data tidying and data visualization after that. Okay, thanks for watching and listening, and I will speak to you soon.